So my parents were divorced when I was quite young. And so I spent most of my childhood between two households, and both of them were very unhappy. On the one side, there was a lot of sort of unhappiness, cruelness, controlling behavior. And on the other side, there was alcoholism and a lot of neglect. And so between those two situations, I tended to spend a lot of time in my room. And I think being in my room, I became very independent, and I dreamt, and I think sometimes when you're in an unhappy situation, you spend a lot of time dreaming about what it can be like when you get out. What's something that you can do? How can you have an impactful life because you've felt so contained for so long? So I think if I really think back, probably those moments of solitude sort of shaped this desire I have to be seen and heard now.
And spending all that time alone in your room, what were you doing in there? So you were dreaming a lot. Was there anything as a kid that you were really into that helped you to pass the time?
So I definitely wrote stories, I journaled, and I would read, but mostly I would fantasize about the kind of life that I would want. I always wanted to be an exchange student. I wanted to go to university. I wanted to leave. I lived in a very small town with 500 people. I wanted to move to the big city. And so I just would envision, just one day how great life was going to be. And I became very independent, just very independent. And I think those skills have just really stayed with me my whole life, that I'm very self-sufficient. I can make anything happen for myself. And it kind of started there.
And as a kid, was there anything you wanted to be when you grew up? Was there kind of like a first dream of what you could do for a living?
I have no recollection from when I was really young, but when I was a teenager, maybe around 16, I had the most amazing law teacher, and we threw out the school books and we went to see Midnight Express, and we would go to the courtroom. And I had this fascination with that, and I wanted to be a criminologist. And so I joined the John Howard Society, and I joined Amnesty International. And that was really the foundation, because a lot of things I've done in my adult life have been around projects with the homeless or people in the streets or the youth. And I think it came from that, and so that was where that seed was planted. It's probably my earliest memory, nothing to do with speaking, but just making an impact and helping to shape people's lives.
And to this day, do you love true crime? Most people I know just love true crime. The true crime podcast, Netflix is all about true crime and their documentaries. Are you into that stuff?
I am into true crime. I'm also fascinated with anything that kind of shows the dark side of humanity. Like I love watching Locked Up Abroad or Locked Up, those whole series, anything to do with war, anything to do with torture or terrorism. I don't know why I'm fascinated with that, but the darker side of humanity, and not in I don't revel in it, but I'm fascinated by it. I guess just human behavior.
Yeah, I think a part of that is, we strive to be good people. We strive to help others. But when you see what we're capable of, as humans on the dark side of things, you realize that we all have that darkness within us, that under the wrong circumstances, maybe you could be brought to that place. And I guess to see others that have done that, there's lessons to learn there about, where did things go wrong? And if I was stuck in a situation, would I be capable of those horrible things? And I guess it's maybe the human condition that it draws you to that, because that's, maybe that's not who you are. It kind of broadens your horizons of what is possible as a human, I suppose.
Yeah, for sure. And I think I have empathy. I do definitely have empathy in life. And I think I can almost look at any situation. And when you look at people who are on the streets or who are in addiction, or even if I look at my parents, everything can be traced back to something that happened when they were younger. And so once you start to understand that, it makes life a lot easier to understand and to forgive. And so I think that's why I'm fascinated. And a lot of times there's a show called I Am a Killer I love that show. And I cry through that show all the time because you see these horrible people that have killed someone, and they always show their whole childhood. And inevitably it always started with abuse or being, raped or something horrible. And it makes things very easy to understand.
Yeah, you hear that, kids are never born bad. Like there's not a baby that's just this evil entity. It's created over years of neglect or bad parenting or something.
Yes, for sure.
So if I met you at 12 years old, who am I meeting? What is 12-year-old Rina like? So this is getting a little bit older in this story here.
Okay, so 12-year-old Rina was really an overachiever, and I was valedictorian. Going into grade 8, I was valedictorian. I actually had an opportunity to be a page at Queen's Park. In Canada, the Parliament buildings, I was one of 800 students chosen. I was in the enrichment program. Like, I was really an overachieving child. And I think I channeled all of my youth angst into those dreams that I talked about, just wanting to be able to make impact. And so I was just out there trying to be the best version of myself at that age.
Do you think that you saw that maybe as your way out? Like if you were exceptional at different things, that opportunities would present themselves to get you out of there?
Yes. And I think I felt so invisible in my home life, my whole life. And it was a chance to be visible. Like if you are the valedictorian, you are at the front of the room. And if you are winning competitions, and I played a lot of sports as a kid, and I have lots of ribbons and just anything there was, I was involved. If it was student council, I was on it. Like I was just involved in things because they were ways for me to be validated and to feel valuable in a world where I maybe didn't. So I was all in to sort of excel at everything I could do.
Do you think that's why you like being on stage? Do you think that's a part of it? That's the spotlight that you get?
I think so, because I remember winning public speaking competitions for the Legion in grade school, and I would go to the bigger competitions, and there's just this rush of being on stage and all eyes on you and listening to whatever you wanted to say. And I always had like crazy speeches. Like everyone else would be talking about their weekend at their grandparents, and I would be like, Rick Hansen, is he really a hero? Like I was just, I don't know, I just wanted a chance to just be controversial and be out there and have attention on me. And I caught on fire at that young age with speaking.
I think that all of us really want is just to be seen and heard. I think almost every relationship that goes horribly wrong is that someone just didn't feel seen or heard. I don't know if that's how I feel anyway.
I agree. And the whole foundation of Speaker Slam is creating a platform for people to be seen and heard. And for both Dan and I, when we started it, that was everything. And to this day, we're like going into our 7th year. I see the deep desire people have to be seen and heard. And some people that have been invisible their whole life, it just gives them that one moment of like, something I have to say is valuable, and people are going to listen and see and understand. And all of the pain that I've had in my life wasn't for nothing. It was for something. And now I'm going to use that to make an impact. And that huge desire is what actually fuels the whole success of our business.
Yeah, I've had success in the network marketing industry, building business, helping people. And one of the things I've seen is, everyone has a different reason for why they're building a network marketing business. Usually it's another source of income. For some, it's traveling. For some, it's whatever. They like the services or products. But you'd be surprised how many times it's just for someone to feel like they're a part of something, that when they're a part of your organization and you see them and you respect them and you're, organizing events and you're bringing them here. A lot of them say, this is the first time in my life that I feel like I belong somewhere, that I'm a part of something. So you see that condition, like almost anywhere you go, is some people will do more just to be seen and heard than they would do for money or for other things.
For sure. And I think that sense of community is so important. And I think whether Dan and I met in Toastmasters, and I think that is another organization where They create a sense of community. And when you have these communities and they have conferences and they have conventions and people are coming together, and they always have people that have the most sales or the best salesman, the best speaker. They're just ways that we seek to have connection and also to be validated.
A lot of times when I hear someone say that they want to be a public speaker, they want to get better at being a public speaker, people just say you need to go to Toastmasters. For our listeners that aren't familiar with Toastmasters, can you share just a little bit of information about what that is?
I love Toastmasters. They're just a community of people that want to help people get better with speaking. They have a format. I have respect for people that go there because they're working through their fears. They're working at putting speeches together. They get up in front of the room. They have activities they do to be better in all kinds of ways, from telling a joke or introducing someone or running a meeting. It's a very valuable foundation for a lot of people. I think it only goes so far. I think it just kind of gives you the basics in speaking. But for anybody, especially, when everybody has hobbies and sometimes they go to paint groups or cooking classes, but if you want to just be heard or share your voice, it's the greatest place to go to make friends and build community and to just practice that very basic skill of just speaking.
So as we keep moving forward, you're getting a little bit older here in this story. So at 16, if you and I were friends when you were 16 years old and you invited me over to listen to some music, what would we be listening to? This is if you're a music fan, not everyone is. What are there any favorite artists or albums or songs that you would be playing at around 16 years old?
Okay, so I was a huge fan of Good Rockin' Tonight. And when I was even younger, my mom would let me stay up till midnight so I could watch it. I used to pray when I would go to sleep that God would let me marry Michael Jackson. I would play that record over and over. I loved Billy Joel. Those are two completely opposite stars. And I had the Rocky Horror Picture Show album, and I would just play it on loop. So those are some of my favorites. Chicago. I love Chicago. But I would listen to the top 40, and I loved music, and staying up late to just hear those songs. Oh my gosh. What about you? Do you remember what your favorites were?
Absolutely. But I want to touch on yours for a second. Man, Billy Joel has some incredible songs, Uptown Girl and Piano Man. And he's so incredible. With Michael Jackson, sometimes it's good, I guess, when you pray and you don't get what you want, because I don't think you'd want to be married to Michael Jackson. So he's amazing musically, but I don't think.
No, I grew out of that. I had posters though. I had t-shirts. I just loved him so much. I don't know what it was, but I guess everybody did when they were young and he was popular.
Yeah. I don't know that we'll ever have a global superstar on his level. You had like the Beatles as a band, and then Michael Jackson. It was like this guy wasn't human. It was crazy. Right. Yeah.